Sometimes clients ask me whether they should have a judge trial or a jury trial. In this video, I explain to you the difference between a judge trial or bench trial and a jury trial. And I'll also tell you the one very important reason why a judge trial is rarely ever used. Hello folks, I'm Andrew Williams and this is another edition of the Fedora Lawyer. I'm board certified in criminal law and I have 28 years of trial experience behind me. And this channel is not for lawyers and it's not for legal scholars. It's for you. Okay, so what is the difference between a jury trial and a judge trial? In a jury trial, the jury decides the facts of your case. They decide which witnesses are telling the truth, which ones are not, how much weight to put on each piece of evidence, and of course, they decide whether you're guilty or not. And the judge determines all the legal issues in the case. He decides whether evidence is admissible or not admissible, what's hearsay, what's not hearsay, all those sorts of things. Those are all legal issues that the judge handles. But the judge does not have anything to do with whether you're guilty or not. That is strictly up to the jury. So, if you have a jury trial, the judge and the jury have two separate jobs. The judge decides the law, the jury decides whether you're guilty or not. In a judge trial, on the other hand, you don't have a jury at all. So the judge has to be the judge and the jury. Not only does the judge determine the legal issues in your case, he also determines the factual issues too. So he does what the jury would normally do. The judge decides which witness is telling the truth, which one is not being truthful, how much weight to put on each piece of evidence, and most importantly, the judge decides if you're guilty or not. Essentially, in this type of trial, the judge is the jury. So the judge takes on two jobs. He's the judge, he monitors the legal issues, and the other job is he decides your fate. There's two things you need to think about if you're going to go the judge trial route. Number one is, what if there's evidence that may or may not be admissible? In a jury trial, the jury doesn't see that evidence unless the judge okays it. So the judge looks at the evidence, and if he determines that it's not admissible, the jury doesn't ever see it. They won't know it existed, they won't talk about it, they won't think about it, and they won't consider it during their deliberations. But in a judge trial, the judge is the one that's going to look at the evidence and determine whether it's admissible or not. And if the judge says, no, this evidence is not admissible, then he's the one that's not supposed to consider the evidence that he just saw. And that is one reason why a judge trial is usually not a good option. Number two, in a jury trial, prosecution has to convince 12 people that you're guilty. That means all 12 people in a jury trial have to believe beyond a reasonable doubt that you're guilty. Even if one single juror is not convinced that you're guilty, you cannot be found guilty. All criminal jury trials require a unanimous verdict. That means all 12 jurors have to vote the same way. All 12 have to say guilty, or all 12 have to say not guilty. Anything in between, and you cannot be convicted. But if you decide to have a judge trial, only one person has to be convinced that you're guilty, and that's the judge. Because in a judge trial, the judge is the jury. So you have to weigh that in your consideration of, do you want to roll the dice and have just one single person decide your fate? Or do you want to have a jury trial and hope that at least one of those 12 people sees things your way and votes not guilty? So those are the main differences between a judge trial and a jury trial. In a jury trial, the jury decides if you're guilty or not, and the judge tends to the law. In a judge trial or bench trial, the judge does both jobs. The judge tends to the law, and the judge also decides your guilt. That's why it's so rarely used, because there's only one person that makes a determination on your guilt or innocence, and that's the judge. In a jury trial, there's 12 people, so you have a better shot at winning. Hopefully that clears things up for you. I hope this information was helpful. If it was, hit the like button for me. If you like getting informative videos like this, you can watch either one of these two videos as well. I plan on making lots more videos on all sorts of legal topics in the future. You can also visit my website at andrewwilliamslaw.com. For now, this is the Fedora Lawyer signing off.